Hi, I'm Naturopath Dr. Julian Neil. Today I want to speak about how unresolved emotions show up in the body and what practices we can employ to release them. Emotions are living energies. They don't vanish because we ignore them. They relocate. And as the old saying goes, what we refuse to feel, the body will eventually reveal. As a naturopathic doctor, psychoanalyst, and yogi, I've witnessed time and time again that my patients' unresolved emotions are actually the invisible threads that weave their way through their physical, mental, and spiritual imbalances. And the body becomes the voice then for what their soul cannot yet articulate. And I want to explore with you this through three lenses: the physical, the emotional, psychological, and the spiritual and energetic. First, I'm going to start with the physical plane, when emotion becomes biology. Every thought and every emotion we have has a corresponding biochemical expression. The nervous system, hormones, and immune cells all listen to our emotional state. And when emotions remain unresolved, whether it's fear, grief, anger, guilt, or shame, the body then has to adapt by holding them and creating tension, altering hormonal balance, and sometimes even changing its posture and its chemistry. I want you to think of it this way, that anger and many emotions lodge in various parts of the body. So anger in the liver, chronic frustration often manifests as headaches, irritability, or skin eruptions. Grief settles in the lungs and is felt as tightness in the chest or heart issues or shallow breathing that causes problems. Fear impacts the kidneys and adrenals, depleting vitality and creating anxiety, fatigue, or even insomnia. And worry, it lives in the spleen and stomach, leading to bloating, ulcers, or digestive irregularities. These associations aren't poetic, they're physiological. Our vagus nerve, which connects brain to gut and heart, constantly relays emotional information to the body. Our chronic suppression of emotion, therefore, keeps the nervous system in its survival mode, which is fight, flight, or freeze. And this floods us with cortisol and adrenaline. And over time, these excess chemicals lead to inflammation, lowered immunity, thyroid dysfunction, and pain syndromes like fibromyalgia, among a few examples. So one of the most profound insights of naturopathic medicine is that the body always tells the truth. Our symptoms aren't punishments. They're just communication. All right. Second, let's look at the emotional plane, the psychology of unresolved feelings. In psychoanalysis, we understand that repression is not the same as resolution. When an emotion overwhelms us and we can't process it safely, this is especially true as children, then the psyche has to store it in the unconscious. And it's not gone, it's just hidden. The body then becomes the unconscious actually made visible. And these frozen emotions replay through patterns such as chronic anxiety, overreaction to stress, or physical pain without a clear medical cause. So a woman who grew up, for example, silenced may develop throat tension or thyroid issues. Someone who never felt safe expressing their anger may manifest migraines, autoimmune disorders, or liver issues. In essence, what we cannot speak, the body is going to speak for us. But here's always my hope, that once we bring awareness to the feeling beneath the symptom, the body can finally let go. As Carl Jung said, Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Healing often begins not with doing more, but with feeling more. Allowing the tears, the shaking, the breath. These are not breakdowns, but breakthroughs of integration. And third, finally, let's look at the spiritual and the energetic plane. So in yogic energy, yogic science and energy medicine, emotions are understood as emotion, energy in motion. Each emotion vibrates at a frequency, so when we suppress or resist it, that energy then stagnates in the chakras and meridians. This blocks the life force, which is our prana. And over time, stagnation becomes physical disease or emotional numbness. So again, for example, blocked energy in the heart chakra can lead to disconnection and depression. When it's blocked in the solar plexus, it manifests as lack of confidence or digestive issues and lack of digestive fire. When it's in the sacral center, it may show up as sexual shutdown or creativity loss. The spiritual invitation isn't to judge these emotions, but to transmute them, to use awareness, breath, and compassion to restore flow. I always say to my patients, pain becomes purpose when we can bring love and compassion to it. Here are some practices for release and realignment I suggest and use with my patients. The physical practices I recommend are breath work. Deep diaphragmatic breathing or alternate nostril breathing helps reset the nervous system. There are so many ways to find what we call in yogic science pranayamic exercises. I do a series called Meditation Mondays on Instagram and TikTok. You can look for under at Neil Naturopathic. Doing movement, yoga, qigong, or even gentle walking helps emotional discharge through the fascia. Using body therapies, acupuncture, lymphatic massage, or craniosacral therapy all help move blocked energy. The emotional practices I use are things like somatic awareness, simple things like where do I feel this emotion in my body and then letting the sensation guide you. Journaling or expressive art, externalizing what words can't yet express. And always trying to get therapeutic support. Working with the trauma-informed therapy or perhaps EMDR to safely process stored traumatic experiences. And then finally, the spiritual practices we use are meditation. We want to create inner stillness so feelings can surface without judgment, and we train the mind. We practice forgiveness rituals, not to condone, but to release attachment to suffering. And always I recommend connection to nature. Nature absorbs and harmonizes emotional energy. So sitting by the water, walking in trees, or by the sand in the beach, or simply just watching the sky. The healing principle is not the absence of emotion. It is the freedom for emotion to move. In my clinical practice, I've seen migraines actually lift after grief was released, digestion improve after anger was expressed, and fatigue dissolve after fear was faced. So we heal not by rejecting parts of ourselves, but by welcoming them actually home. We integrate the emotional, the physical begins to regenerate, and then the spiritual reconnects to its source. Unresolved emotion fragments our wholeness. Felt emotion finally restores it. Here are my final thoughts. Every symptom is a sacred conversation. It's actually an invitation from your body to listen more deeply. I always talk about listening to the body. The goal isn't to silence the messenger, but to honor the message. And when we feel what we have long avoided, we return to the full aliveness that is our birthright. The body remembers everything, but it also forgives everything the moment we do.